Good morning everyone, and welcome back to Craft Eccentricity, and it's the Tutorial Tuesday. And yesterday I told you I was going to do that sort of very humorous looking Santa, and I've already cropped him into lots of little pieces, and I did that using these. So I used those to snip that die apart, and I used them to snip all my dies apart. So that is the Santa that we're going to be using. Obviously it's all in bits, so you've got to wait until it's made to see it. And the background is going to be the KS Craft Slimline Stitched Basics, and I've used the two smaller ones for this, so I'm also going to be using that. And all of my adhesives today are Dollar Tree, which is the Jot glue that I use in the Aliexpress bottle. I'm using the I think they call this pop dot tape, and it's, as you can see, foamy tape, so I'm going to be using that. And I'm also going to be using their foam squares, or rectangles they are, and these are awesome, and they're only $1, and you get such a lot, and it makes making cards easier because it's cheaper. Right, so what else have I got? I've got my pickup tool, because you just can't put pieces like this together without a pickup tool. And I'll show you an example here. Look, when I cut this, those are the buttons for the coat, and you can see how small those are when I put my finger in. So you're going to need one of these in order to be able to pick those up and pop them into position. So right, I'm going to go away and cut some cardstock, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've done that, and I've put all my bits in all of the respective places. Like these tiny little white bits here are the cuffs that go onto the sleeves, and I will do a close-up when I've finished. I don't think I can get my camera down any lower without it getting completely blurred. And these are the little flesh-coloured hands. This is the face. Now there's a tiny little dint there. I hope you can see that. And that is supposed to be the eye. Now I think I might use one of my 1.5mm flatbacks to put in there, so I will get those after. And then you can see those three tiny little buttons, and there you've got the feet, and there you've got Santa's little stockings. So that's the pieces from the die, and I've kind of positioned them so that I remember where things go, because he's kind of like, he's holding his pudding, or his plum pudding or Christmas pudding, up in the air there. And then with the basic stitched, I've done a white piece, and I've done that sort of like wacky stripe. Well, it's a candy stripe, but I think it's quite zany, and it will suit the character of this die. So I'm holding it that way around so that it fits in, but you can see the colours there. It's really going to make Santa stand out. So this is the base, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some double-sided foam tape onto the back of this to raise it up, because I want a nice raised background, and these will be used on my character. So I'm going to do this bit, and I'll be straight back. Okay, so that's what I've done. I've put 3 strips of foam down so that there's support on all sides and also down the centre. And it's really nice that Dollar Tree are doing this, because you can imagine having to sort of like stick down lots of those. So this stuff really does save time, and it's got a really nice dimension on it, so I love it. So I'm going to peel the backs off this and stick it down, and then we'll do Santa. So here we are, look, those 3 strips, nice and tidy, gives it a nice raised base, and it's lovely and solid. It's sort of like, tap that in your hand, because you know, when you're gifting a card, you want it to feel like it's good and solid, not flimsy. And I know it can be difficult for some people, but always try to use the best cardstock that you can, and then you can always cheat with the things that aren't seen, as in, you know, using Dollar Tree glue and whatnot. As I have said before, I am going to try some of that art glitter glue. It is out of my budget, but I will get some eventually, and I'll test it against my Dollar Tree and see what happens. I might be a convert and I might not. So that is the base. So let's get into Santa. Now, as I said, I've already positioned a lot of these, and the things that I like to concentrate on first when doing paper piecing are the smallest pieces, and that's only because I don't want to lose them. So I'm going to take the cap off of my Dollar Tree glue here, and I am using a mat, so I just want to make sure that it's flowing, and it is. And I'm just going to drop 3 little drops of glue. I don't want to put too much because you never know. Sometimes cardstocks will stain, and you can't get it out again. So believe it or not, there is one button gone down there, another one there, and another one there. And then what I usually do is I just use my finger, and then I will wipe off on kitchen paper, and I can hold that up for you, and then I can get my fingers around it, and you'll be able to see, I hope. I'm getting close. We'll go microscopic and then zoom out. There you go. You can see those 3 little buttons have gone down there, and if you think that they're like a little bit off center, just move them in with your nail while that glue's still wet, and it does dry quite quickly. This will be dry in a few seconds. And then of course you can see the position of the stars there, so you just need to manipulate your stars so that you've got your points in the correct position. And now I'm going to glue those on, and it really is super quick. I mean, you know, I'm chatting away and whatnot here, but I know people like the ability to make fast cards, and I'm just going to pop glue really in the center. I'm not bothered about going all the way to the edges on this one, because if anybody wants to, like, you know, mess around with anything that you've put on there when you've sent it to them, then why shouldn't they? So they'd actually be able to flick up the tips of those stars if they wanted to. Now on the pocket, I am going to scratch my glue around there. I don't want any glue across the star area, and the reason for that is when you moisten cardstock and then you apply something over it that has something underneath that overlaps, you can get that indentation from the stars kind of like poking through the pocket, and that's not always necessarily an attractive thing. So you can see I've got my glue at the bottom, and my pocket is going to hopefully end up looking nice and smooth. So that's how quick that was. A little bit of wet glue there, but never mind, that's going to dry, and you've got those lovely little buttons all in position. Right, now the next thing is the beard. Now if you're going to sort of like fasten this down flat onto cardstock, you would shape the beard into the coat like that and just glue it. But because I want dimensional foam pads underneath, it means I have to overlap so that it's not sort of like, you know, stuck down flat. It means I'll be able to lift the object up. And to do this, obviously I don't want it to stick onto my black cardstock, so I'm going to use it on my glass mat here, and I'm just going to go on the very, very edge and go all the way down there, and then I can take his beard and just place it, rest it right on the edge of that glue, so that you're not taking up too much space, but you're able to, you know, move it around now and pop your pads underneath. As I said, you know, if you're just putting it flat to your cardstock, then you just butt all the joints up together, but I'm actually overlapping. Right, and now we've got the trim for the coat, and I'm going to make the trim for my coat go on top, because it's usually thick fur on Santa's coat, so it would come to the foreground. It wouldn't be in the background, so I wouldn't put the coat over it. I'm putting the fur trim on top of it. So once again, just like the beard, we need to come down here, right on the very edge there, and then I'm going to pick this up. So I cut my fingernails off because I've been doing lots of gardening, and we've had so much rain, everything's been, you know, needed to cut back. So I think that that needs to overlap, so I'm going to go for an even overlap, and I hope that I'm staying almost true to the website. So that is Santa's coat and his beard, done the buttons and the stars. So now I'm just going to glue that pudding together and kind of like just try and remember what it looked like. Now you have got it embossed here so that we know where the icing goes, and if I'm blurred, I sincerely apologise, but I will correct it, I promise you. And now I'm just going to pop that in to the embossed areas that I can see, so that that's gone on top of there. That you've got that lovely sort of like dinty detail. So some people call it a plum pudding, and some people call it a Christmas pudding. Personally, I don't think there's any sort of like right or wrong way. And if my memory serves me well, the holly sticks up from this. I'm going to move that one around there. And then the berries are just underneath it. So there's sort of like 3 little berries stuck together. Whoops, I've just taken it off again. That's because I've got glue on here. So you just wipe that with your fingertip. So that's the coat, and that's the little pudding done. And we need to do the hat. So I'm keeping my eye on the clock because I never really like to keep anybody sitting there waiting for a long period of time. And we're just going to put the bobble onto the tip. And really this is a quick card because this is the first time I'm making it, and I'm doing it from memory, which may turn out to be completely wrong when I've finished. Just pop the tip on there. And it really is quick. I mean, if I had to do this again, it would take me probably half as long. So, and I'm also going to pop his face in there. And that's going to have to go just underneath the brim of that hat. So I can see roughly where the dent is. As I said, you would normally butt this up flat onto a card, but I want it sort of like sticking up with Dollar Tree foamy pads. So I am going to pause in a second and just grab my flat back beads. Yeah, I can roughly see where the edge of the eye is because I've popped a little hat on his head. So I do want that to dry, and I do want that to stick. Right, I'm just going to pause and get my flat backs. So here they are, my little tiny tin of caviar, and I usually just grab one. It's quite easy for me to grab one, and as I say, they're 1.5 ml, and usually I can just flip one over like that. I can see that little dent down there, and I don't want to lose that because otherwise it's going to look totally different to what's on the website. And I do like to make things so that they look true, so that you know it can be done. So obviously his eye is much bigger than the website, but I'm just showing so that you know that you can have your Santa popped up on pads and you don't have to keep it flat. I'm just going to pause a second while I run off and get some kitchen paper. Okay, so I tidied my bit of mess up there, and when these are dry, that will just slightly overlap, and so you start to see your Santa character because that's his nose right there, and that will go over the top just fractionally so that his hair meets the brim of his hat. And of course we've got the pudding there, And then these bits that I've got here are the cuffs, tiny little white ones, and the tiny little hands. So I'm going to pick those up with my picky tool and pop those bits together. This is the hand that swings out behind, and this is his, I'm going to call it his pudding hand. So I'm popping that bit there. I mean, you can see within the die which bit goes where. I mean, for a lot of people, these might be, you know, sort of too small or too fiddly, but with a pickup tool, it's really easy if you can get your pickup tool to work. Mine actually needs cleaning because I've got loads of gunk on it. Now, here's that trick again. If you drop little pieces and you need them, just flip them over with a pokey tool so that you've got them the right way around. Now, first of all, I'm going to stick down the cuffs. I'm just going to move that in. I'm just going to put a tiny little drop of glue, and I hope you can see those. And then I'm going to use my pickup tool to pop the cuffs on and get them the right way around, and that goes onto there, and of course some glue is squeezed out, so it wants to pick the whole thing up. And then we've got that little cuff there. I mean, for me personally, I do love all these little details. Maybe it's because I know that when I'm gifting a card, I kind of know what's gone into it, so you know, everybody can go to a store and buy a card. It's just not the same as making one for somebody. And I think one of the reasons videos like this are so great is, you know, not everybody loves to make stuff, but a lot of people do like to watch stuff being made. And I think people just gain a greater appreciation of the effort that goes into making a handmade card when you've got videos like this, because I put my hand in, look how small those are, do you know what I mean? And the maker of the die has done a wonderful job because they just fit absolutely perfectly. So I've got a little bit of hand wash alcohol stuff on here. This is that big bottle I showed you that I got from Aldi. It's not the powerful hand sanitizer that you need for any germs or diseases going around at the moment, but this is the weakened stuff, and it's perfect for crafting. And I'll just grab it here, look, it comes in this massive bottle, and I think it was £3.83. So if you've got an Aldi, you know, rather than using your good stuff that you need at the moment, that stuff's like half proof, even though it says it kills 99.9% of germs, which I guess that is good. Right, now getting back to this and my memory, I know that goes there. You've got Santa's little hand here, and that swings out from his coat, you know, like he's racing off. And I'm kind of like wondering at what height, excuse my throat, that I'm going to have it. And I think I'm going to have it there. And then I'm going to need a hand that's holding the pudding. So that's going to need to erupt from his moustache, making it look like he's got, you know, two really long arms when he hasn't. And then he's going to be holding that pudding. And then here on the paper, which you probably can't see, I'll move them up. That there and that there is a boot, and these are the socks. So I'm going to move these over to here because, of course, I can't use the paper to glue them down, because they would stick if any glue oozed out. And so I've got the boots, and pop those close by. I'm going to put a little drop of glue onto the ends there, and then I'm going to move the boots up so he kind of looks like he's wearing white socks or white trousers. I want to make sure that one's on straight. Give it a squeeze. And now they need to dry. I did that one a bit wobbly, didn't I? So I'm going to be back in a second. So I'm kind of guessing that his legs go in that direction, you know, sort of like marching. He looks very pleased with himself, and I think I'm happy to sort of like pop his legs there. I'm just going to slide them under, and same there, and then I'm just going to press down. I'm going to let those dry, and let's put the card together when I come back. Okay, so here is little Santa, and you can see the configuration that I've placed him in there. I hope that's clear enough for you. Let's see how close we can get. There you go. You've got his little tiny hands, and I haven't glued his pudding on because I'm not sure how I'm going to pop that on the card. And you've got, let's see if you can see it, you've got sort of like stripy herringbone detail on his pocket. There we go. I'll move slowly down. See those tiny little buttons, and then you've got that herringbone on the hat. So he's a little bit wacky and a little bit sort of like country. A little bit country, I like that. And I'm going to use my kitchen paper here. I'm going to make sure I've got no glue left on this bit of mat, because I'm going to flip him over, and of course the reverse side of your paper piecing is never pretty, really it's not. So unless you want to sort of like flip it back over again, go around your whole design with a pencil, then you're never going to get a pretty back. So if it was something that you've got some half hanging off the card, which is what I do sometimes, I would get a piece of cardstock, draw around this section, obviously the other way around, cut it out with scissors as close to as possible, and then paper piece that so it's nice and tidy on the back, and then I could have his head poking over the top of the card. Right, now I'm going in with Dollar Tree foamy pads, and I find the best way to do this is just tear a little strip off so that the whole thing doesn't come unraveled on you. And I tend to place my pads where I've got delicate things. So there's a leg, and I know that little leg there is going to be held securely in place now, because these Dollar Tree foam pads are very, very adhesive. So I like to put plenty on. I want a good solid card, and then I'm going to go up into this section where the face is paper pieced to the beard, and you've also got the hat. So there we go. And I hope that it hasn't covered the brim. No, it hasn't. And then I'm just going to take one and I'm going to cut it up with my scissors into little strips. I haven't got a clue what that was that just fell on the floor, but I just heard something. So I've cut 3 strips here. I'm going to pull a chunk off, and I'm going to try and piece that into the beard section. Now before you press down with these, make sure you've got it right where you want it. Can you see I've got some overlap there? So I just go in there before I cut it down. There we go. Put it down rather. And now I've got a piece on the beard, and it's not going to be on show. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the hat there. And I'm going to pop that in there, and I know that that's going to stick out. So what I'm going to do, straighten his little leg up, is try to manipulate that, and then take, this is how your scissors look, they get all gunked up from cutting stuff like this, and I just use Dawn dish soap and a metal scourer to clean them up. And then I just cut up a chunk of aluminum foil to keep them sharp, because I'm sure many of you know that if you cut dies and punches and scissors, and you just cut kitchen foil, aluminum foil with them, you keep your blades nice and sharp. So there are all my foamy pads. I'm not sure about this. In fact, I think I am going to pop this on a foam pad. So I'm just going to grab another one and see if it will fit. I hope that it does. And it does. I haven't got any bits sticking out. So I'll peel that one off ready. I'm going to take the backs off of these. And then I'm going to bring the card base in so that we can stick down, and it should look really kind of fun and humorous little Santa on that background. So here it is, the base that I did, and I want to position him where I can pop a sentiment eventually if I want to. I mean, I have to admit, doing these videos is a great way to get organised for Christmas, and I've got space if I want to put a couple of snowflakes in there. So I'm just going to pop him there. I'm really happy with that. And then of course I've got his little pudding, and I've put that on a foamy pad, and there is Santa holding his pudding. Now you could of course cut the stars in silver or gold or glitter or anything. And talking about glitter, there we go. I had some glitter stuck on his hat. But if we get in close there, he's a lovely simple Santa. There are some small pieces, but as I say, if you use your pickup tool, it should be okay. Now if I pop that down again, try to get the whole thing into the picture, I'm going to measure him, but I've got room to put a sentiment at an angle, you know, following his feet like he's walking uphill on the sentiment, and I've got space to put 2 or 3 little snowflakes up there just to finish him off. So how big is that Santa? He is, from his tiny little feet. I'm going to go from the position of the pudding because I'm pretty sure I'm quite accurate to the side, and it's 4 3/4 inches. And then going across from the swirly beard to the hand, we have 2 3/4 inches. So it is a really, really lovely one for a slimline die. And these slimline basics here from KS Craft are absolutely gorgeous. But there you have him, a Santa, a little bit wacky, a little bit country. And I do thank you very much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed that. And tomorrow we're going to be up with that seriously cute sort of marshmallow type snowman with his marshmallows. And who can't resist that? It's Santa in his stripy pajamas with his little bunny rabbit slippers. So this is what will be done tomorrow. You have a fabulous day. As usual, all links below. Bye.